One of the biggest things you need to think about as a home buyer right here in San Diego is what is my monthly payment going to be and what's all included in that. So we're going to break that all down. Two things that are going to be super important. What is the purchase price of the home, obviously, and what are interest rates? So we're going to jump into four different scenarios for four different interest rates. So you could see actually next to each other how much difference would be between a 5% interest rate and a 6% interest rate, 6% and 7%, 7%, 8%. So we're going to break that all down right now so you can have a better idea of what to expect when purchasing a home right here in San Diego. And if you like what you're seeing here, throw us a quick little thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We're dropping new videos here every single week, all things San Diego real estate, let you know exactly what's going on, boots on the ground, so you can make an informed decision when you are buying or selling a home. And if you want to dive in a little bit more, as we always say in this channel, every situation is a little bit different. So if you want to pick our brains, see what's going to work for you, feel free to drop us a line right below. All of our information is right down there in the description in that first link down there. So we got your back when making the move here in San Diego. So we're going to jump into this mortgage calculator, mortgage payment calculator, which you can find anywhere online. I'm just going with the Mortgage News Daily one. You fill out all your info, which we'll do on here. I'm going to start with the most current interest rates right now. I was just chatting with our lender earlier today. He was quoting just shy of 7% at the end of last week, just over 7% today. So the first one we're going to jump into is that 7% interest rate and what that looks like for a house payment here in San Diego. And as you go through, all these mortgage calculators are usually going to be calculated to somewhere that's not here. So obviously home prices are going to be different. Some of this stuff is going to autofill, but some stuff you're going to want to keep in mind as you're going through, because some things might affect, like I said, your specific situation. So as far as home price, we're going to start with what the median sales price is or was at the end of last week, $837,000 right here in San Diego County. So let's just pop that in. And then as we go through, all I'm going to have to change is the interest rates, but I'm going to give you guys a little bit more insight to show you what's going on in mortgage rates. Now we're going to keep this at 20% down, because if you don't put 20% down, there's usually something called PMI, also known as private mortgage insurance. This is something that your lender will put onto your loan if you are putting less than 10% down, and it keeps them protected in the case of a market downturn. So you're paying into this insurance premium so that the lender stays protective. And usually it happens, or it comes into play, if you are putting less than 20% down. So 20% down is not the norm. You could do 5, 10, 15%, whatever situation you are in. You can talk to a lender and just kind of go through all those different scenarios. But just keep in mind, your ultimate payment will be a little bit higher if you do have less than 20%, because you're going to be paying that PMI. And this is just over on NerdWallet. You can go through and figure out what the PMI is. Right here, there's estimating about a 1.5% PMI rate. The calculations that we're doing today are going to be at 20% just to take this out of it. But just keep that in mind. Keep that in the back of your head if you are putting less than 20% down. All right. So like I said, we're going to put this at a 7% interest rate, starting date of January 2024. Now, as you're going through any of these mortgage calculators, some of these numbers are going to be drastically different. So one thing, if you are getting a loan, a lot of times the lender is going to roll your home insurance into the loan or into an escrow account in the loan. So your monthly payment is going to include your home insurance. And once again, it's to protect them, to protect their assets. So it just gets paid every month, but it also you will see it on your mortgage statement. You'll see your principal, your interest, your insurance, your taxes, because you'll also be paying into your property taxes. But for this example, $1,000 is way too low. And that's one thing that you want to keep in mind too, especially if you're purchasing a home here in San Diego in high fire zones, in any sort of particular areas that maybe have a potential for that, because your insurance rates are going to be a little bit higher. And one thing we found out this year as well, if there has been any past insurance claims on the home, when you are going to get insurance as a buyer, depending on how far those claims are back and how much they were, all those kind of factors, your insurance premium as a buyer can be higher as well. So two things to keep in mind: fire and past claims. Now, how much is insurance? That $1,000 is way too low, but we're just going to go off of a standard home at that $837,000 price point. On average, home insurance in San Diego costs $974 per year or $81 per month for a policy with $250,000 in dwelling coverage. So if we take 974, let's just say it is that $837,000 dwelling coverage, you're going to be about just under 3.5 times this amount. I just did the math here. It's about $3,260. So that is the number we're going to put in there. So we're going to pop 3,260 into here. And just a reminder, like I said, this number is definitely going to vary. It really depends on a lot of factors. Talk to your insurance provider if you are currently owning a home and you're going to buy a new home, because some providers are not providing on new policies. State Farm, as you've seen any of the news, a lot of them have pulled out of California and rates are going up. So this number can fluctuate, but this will be a good benchmark for today. Now hopping into taxes. Now taxes here in San Diego, property taxes are going to be 1% of the purchase price. So that'd be $8,370 per year for your property taxes. Divide that by 12. Once again, these would be rolled into your mortgage statement as you would see it on your mortgage statement. They're going to hold it into an escrow account and most likely pay that for you every month, just because once again, if property taxes don't get paid, the asset can get taken away, etc. So they're just protecting themselves on this front as well. Now, there's a few other things that can be included in your insurance. So we always recommend, as you're calculating this number, make it about 1.25% of the purchase price, because potentially every property is going to be a little bit different depending on what city you're in, depending on what kind of bonds have been passed in your area, depending on if there are Mello-Roos, which is a potential extra tax. You see a lot of that in newer construction, anywhere from like 2000 on up here in San Diego. Some of the older communities aren't going to have that. You won't have to worry about that. But like I said, every situation is going to be a little bit different. So if we calculate it at that 1.25% of the $837,000 purchase price, it's going to be $10,463. Now that's going to be a yearly amount. So just remember, that's going to be divided out by the 12 months. But you can see in this situation, it's almost $1,000 per month in property taxes right here. And in this situation, we're going to put a $0 for HOA, since we're going to focus on a single family home here in San Diego. Now, I know some single family homes, a lot of them do have HOAs, but it varies from like San Diego Hills, it's like $80 a month, to different parts like new construction, it's going to be much more than that. So it really depends. There's a big wide range, but as you're going through it, if you have a specific area that you're looking at, you could pop that number in here too. And one thing we can provide from our lender as we're out looking at properties, we do it for a lot of clients. You just hit them up and ask them, okay, we found a house. Here's what we're thinking as far as offer price. Here's the HOA. Here's all the numbers. What is our monthly payment going to be, and get that to you pretty quick. So then you get a quick little snapshot, like I said, because everything's going to be a little bit different. You could run all these online, but it's really going to come down to each individual home. But for this one, we're doing a $0 for HOA dues. And then it breaks it all down over here. So you can see interest is going to be your biggest expense. So as you go through too, you can kind of see how long this top line is going to be your balance. You can see the balance going down. The top line is going to be total principal. The bottom color is going to be total interest. So you can see over time, the principal that you're paying is going to be more, and the interest that you're paying is going to go down. But for the first bit of your loan, the amount of principal that you're paying compared to the amount of interest is drastically different. So just within those first few years, a lot of what you're paying is going to be interest. Now, you are paying this amount of principal down every single month. So $550, $560, etc. It's going to go against your principal. So you will be paying that down every single month, but just something to keep an eyeball on too. So back up to the top here, you can see interest for right off the bat is going to be about $3,900. Your taxes, so your property taxes are going to be about $872 per month. Your insurance is going to be about $272 per month. And then your principal payment is going to be $549 per month. So add all that up, you're looking just shy of $6,000 for your payment. Now, a lot of people we've seen this number is higher. We've also seen a lot of people this number is lower. It really just depends. If it's higher, a lot of times people are moving up. So we help a lot of buyers who are selling their current home and basically taking all that cash and putting it into a new home, which is a great little strategy to conserve some of that equity, pop it into a new house, and your payment will obviously be lower. All right, so popping that in over here is $55.98. We'll just round up, and that is at the 7% interest rate. So let's hop in and see a few of the other interest rates. Now, if interest rates did go up, continue to go up, so they moderated off this 8% interest rates that we had seen in the past. Now we're sitting, like I said, right around that 7% range. They did drop down into like kind of the mid sixes, but now we're sitting right at 7. Now, if you're looking at any of the recent articles coming out, a lot of people, a lot of experts expect this number to go down, but who really knows? Last year, they expected to go down. It went up to 8%. It stood there for a little bit, or high sevens. Now we're sitting right about 7. Some experts are saying we're going to be in the sixes kind of towards the end of this year. But I'm going to show you the numbers so that you can decide what situation is going to be best for you. So if we pop it in at 8%, keep all the other numbers the same. We're going to keep HOA dues at 0, 837 home price, down payment of 20%. You can see your monthly payment right here is going to be $6,057. So let's pop that in here, $6,057. And right here, we're looking about a $460 difference. So from a 7% interest rate to an 8% interest rate, you're looking about a $459 difference. All right, now what if interest rates drop down to that 6% mark? Now, one thing to keep in mind, typically what we've seen over these past few years, as interest rates have been elevated, 2 years ago, they were 7% was that elevated. Now we're just sitting at 7%. Last year, 8% was that elevated range. Now we're sitting, like I said, 7%. But that elevated range, it will keep buyer demand, the number of buyers out there. So you as a potential buyer, it will keep the number of buyers a little bit lower than previously we had seen in the past. As the interest rates drop down going into the sixes, and if we do hit fives, which I'll show you an example here, expect a few things to happen. So yes, you will be saving money on your monthly payment if the prices stay the same. But what we have seen over the past, so interest rates go down a little bit, monthly payments get a little bit more affordable. So people are more willing to offer a little bit more and also qualify for a little bit more. So as interest rates go up, the qualifications, the amount you can qualify for obviously goes down. But as more people are qualified, as more people are out in the market, prices tend to go up a little bit. So expect as interest rates drop, even if we go into 6, if we go into 5s, yes, definitely you're going to see a lot more competition, even in the 6s. Even this week, we had a home up in Carlsbad go on the market. It's about $1.1 to $1.2 million range. And it had 12 offers that first weekend. So just to give you a little context on what we're seeing, just even with interest rates at 7% right now. But two things, yes, prices can go up a little bit and the competition would go up a little bit as interest rates go down. So back hopping into here, what does a 6% interest rate look like? So everything's the same. You can see property taxes are going to be the same. Insurance is going to be the same because those are based on the home price. Principal and interest is the number that changes. So we're looking at about 5158. So 5158, and you're sitting about a $440 more payment from 6 to that 7%. So what happens if we put a 5 handle on that? So a 5% interest rate, expect a few things. Definitely more buyers out there, definitely more competition out there, but it also might help more sellers make the decision to put their home on the market where they locked in an interest rate over the past few years in that 3 to 4% range, and 5% was high. Now, 6 and 7% range. Now 5% seems a little bit low or more reasonable. Well, they're a little bit more apt to give up their 3 to 4% interest rates if interest rates are at 5, so they can sell their current home when there's still a lot of competition out there, and also get into a new home where it's not a drastic, well, it would be a big difference, but it's not like from a 3.5% rate to a 6.5 or 7% rate. So that number pops off at 47 and 38. $4,738. That's how maybe some other people would say it. So between a 5% and a 6%, you're looking about a $420 difference. So as we're looking at all these next to each other, the difference between a 5% rate sitting at just over $4,700 to an 8% rate sitting just over $6,000, you can see there's over a $1,200 monthly difference. So as you can see in those 4 different scenarios, interest rates do play a big role. Now, from like a 5% to a 6%, it's not terribly huge. I mean, it's $400 a month, which is about $5,000 per year, which is pretty significant. But a lot of people are looking at that and they're thinking in their heads, I don't want to make a move until it gets to that 5% range. Who knows if it's actually going to get there? But you could see, I think, make a little bit more informed decision if you are actually looking at the numbers and could see specifically what's the difference between a 6% rate and a 7% rate, et cetera, or everything we just went over. And now, if you want to dive into your specific situation and maybe you want a lender referral, we have a great lender partner right here in San Diego. We can hook you up with him and just have a conversation. Honestly, you don't have to get too in depth. Be like, hey, here's what I'm thinking. Here's what I am going for. Here is what my numbers are, just kind of off the top of your head. And he could talk you through all these different situations to see what would work for you, or do we need to plan a little bit, or are we ready to roll right now? So anyways, if you want to start that conversation, all of our information is right below. I'm Chris Erickson with the Beach Life Group, and we got your back when making the move here in San Diego.